हो जाएगा। इन्हीं शब्दों के साथ महोदय
श्री जीएम बनतवाला।
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, sir, this bill is nothing but an attempt on the part of the government Shall I continue? Shall I continue? Mr. Chairman, sir, this bill is nothing but an attempt on the part of the government to run away from its responsibility or liability. And I must take, and I do take, strong exception to this particular thing. Whether it is the question of UTI 1 or UTI 2, finally a device has been found out. Finally a device has been found out by the government to run away from its responsibility. Sir, it should be clearly understood that it was because the UTI was related to the government. It was because of the perception that was allowed to grow that UTI has the backing of the government, that those of the middle class, the senior citizens, such weaker sections entrusted their savings to the UTI. And now finally the government wants to run away from the responsibility. Of course, the government has been very candid in saying that the twin objectives of the bill is, number one, for the government to restrict its liability, and number two, for the government to distance itself from the UTI. The UTI will be bifurcated into UTI 1 and UTI 2. In the case of UTI, the government wants to restrict now its responsibility. All this time, in the case of UTI 2, the government wants to simply wash away totally and entirely its hands. This is an economic fraud by the government being played upon the helpless people like the middle class, the senior citizens, and such other people. On the basis that the UTI has the backing of the government, they entrusted their hard-earned money to the UTI. And now at this critical juncture, the government wants to wash away its hands. There is no question. Economic propriety lies in it that the government must accept full and complete responsibility for all the units, plans, and schemes of the Unit Trust of India, and not try to jettison the weaker people who have been led down the garden path. Mr. Chairman, sir, the government has tried to do this through an easy route, the ordinance route, trying to get away from the strict scrutiny of either this House, also the Standing Committee, and so on. Everyone has spoken about the undesirability of this ordinance Raj that we are having. The government is promulgating ordinance after ordinance, an ordinance even on the eve of the suggestion of the session. But this undesirability of the ordinance route is doubly compounded in the case of the present UTI ordinance. The UTI ordinance, the undesirability is doubly compounded because this ordinance repeals an act of Parliament, an act that was adopted by the Parliament after due deliberation is sought to be repealed through an ordinance. Wherein now lies the sanctity of this House, I ask, Mr. Chairman? Wherein lies the sanctity of the Parliament? Wherein lies the sanctity and respect of this House when legislative measures adopted by this House are to be summarily repealed through an ordinance? This therefore, and here also the question of an ordinance that deals with the question of the hard-earned savings of the middle class, of the citizens and such other people. They have been totally devastated. Charitable trusts and institutions, because of the perception that the UTI has the government backing, invested their corpus in the UTI. And today even these trusts and charitable institutions have suffered great loss because of the erosion of the net asset value. What does this loss to them mean? It means curtailment in their charitable acts with respect to the poor people. On the one hand, dearth of social security measures, and on the other hand, impairing the financial capacity of the charitable institutions and the trusts also to look after the poor people. I must take, and I do take, strong exception to the bill and also to the ordinance. Sir, the bill cannot turn a Nelson's eye. Sir, I have just begun. Let me place my point of view across. Sir, the bill cannot turn a Nelson's eye to the misery that has been inflicted upon the middle class and such other people. It cannot turn a Nelson's eye to the loss inflicted willfully and deliberately upon the UTI by those responsible for investment decisions. Their decisions have been colorable and they must be brought to books. Here in the bill, there is hardly any, I don't see any provision with respect to their liabilities. Of course, I have given notice of an amendment which I shall move at the appropriate stage. But it is necessary that the economic offences be viewed seriously and punishment and deterrent punishment must take place. Sir, now clause 9 provides for a board of advisors. But then it is unfortunate that the exact role of the board of advisors and the relationship between the administrator and the advisors have not been clearly spelled out in the bill. See, subclause 1 of clause 9 says that the board of advisors is to advise and assist the administrator. On the other hand, subclause 1 of clause 10 says the administrator may, on the advice of the of the board of advisors transact the following kinds of business. Now, the administrator, is it compulsory for him to transact the business only on the advice of the board of trustees, of the board of advisors? Then is it a board of advisors, or do they have an overriding powers over the administrator? The matter is not clear. Wherein lies the overriding powers, with the administrator or with the board of advisors? Sir, in the past we have also come across situations where this concept of the board of advisors has never worked harmoniously and properly, and it has been difficult to fix the accountability also. This matter needs a further study and clarification on the role between the administrator and the board of advisors. Sir, the government has come down harshly, I must say, upon what is called UTI-2, or the specified company, to which will be transferred the UTI units, schemes and plans mentioned in Schedule 2. A distinction has been created. Not only the unit holders of the units, plans and schemes of UTI-2 have been jettisoned, not only have they been thrown away, while all along they thought that the UTI had the backing of the government, now jettisoned, not only jettisoned, but this UTI-2 has been discriminated, and several benefits available to UTI-1 will not be there with UTI-2. Sir, for example, tax benefits extended to UTI will continue in respect of UTI-1, but not to UTI-2. Similarly, the transfer to UTI will enjoy exemption from stamp duty. This is denied to transfer to UTI-2. Thirdly, any guarantee in favor of UTI, the entire UTI, will be available to the UTI-1, but will not be available to the UTI-2. Sir, this is nothing but economic fraud, I would say. In the beginning, all the unit holders of the UTI thought they were equal, that the UTI had the backing of the government, and now this discrimination has been sought off. Sir, there are my amendments also on this particular aspect, which I shall be moving at the appropriate time. I have also to draw the attention of this House and the government to two particular units or schemes of the UTI. They are, number one, the Senior Citizens Unit Plan, and number two, the Unit Scheme for Charitable and Religious Trusts and Registered Societies. Just 2 minutes or 3 minutes. Sir, these have been transferred to the UTI-2. Here I must plead that in the case of senior citizens, in the case of charitable institutions, the government has to come forward with full protection and see that they are not made to suffer. Sir, the concern of the employees of the UTI have also to be addressed too. And I would suggest that the government hold talks and proper dialogue with the employees in order to see that, in order to assure them that they would not suffer. Mr. Chairman, sir, the eclipse or the disappearance of the giant like UTI, which was a trend setter in capital market, will be to the benefit of only the private undertakings and multinationals in our country. The responsibility for this sad state of affairs will lie squarely on this government. Thank you, sir.
श्री अजय चक्रवर्ती।
Honorable Chairman, sir, Government of India has taken a decision to split in two groups the largest mutual fund of the country, that is Unit Trust of India, in order to kill one half of the scheme. And this government is a government of ordinance. One after another they are promulgating the ordinance. So bypassing and ignoring the parliament, and also without the consulting the standing committee. On 29 October, ordinance has been promulgated in order to bifurcation our oldest and largest mutual fund unit trust of India by separate two entities. One is Assured Income Return Scheme,